push for A2L refrigerants. That's the topic on this week's episode of Checkup with Dr. Chuck. Hey everyone, welcome back again to another episode of the Checkup, and today I want to talk about the push for A2L refrigerants. And when I say push here, I'm really referring to the acronym for the properties, uses, safety, and handling. There's a lot of information you're going to want to know about A2L refrigerants, and I want to give you an overview of the important topics here today and encourage you throughout the year and in the coming months to get yourself educated as much as possible in this new phase of refrigerants that we're going to be moving into and are already moving into. And it's only going to get faster in coming years. So when we talk about P for properties, really what that refers to is the measurement of flammability and how the characteristics of 2L refrigerants are different from Class 1, which we call non-flammable or no flame propagation, and Class 3, which are the highly flammable explosive refrigerants like the hydrocarbons. So I did an earlier episode, one of my first episodes, episode 5, around the safety, naming, and nomenclature, which goes into all the ASHRAE designations. So if you want some more information on that, I refer you back to check out that. It may provide some useful information for you. I also did a number of other episodes last year on A2Ls. Episode 17 was around burning velocity, one of the key properties of flammable refrigerants that really separates the different classes. That was in episode 17. Episode 19 talked a little bit about the applications, where A2Ls will be showing up. And finally, in episode 24, some of the working codes and standards. But for today, going on to the uses of 2L refrigerants, they're already here. A great example is the mobile air conditioning market has almost entirely transitioned at this point to 1234YF, pure HFO, GWP less than 1, mildly flammable. So they went through, the auto industry did, an extensive process to get ready to transition to that, and it's well underway. There's also mildly flammable refrigerants out there in small air conditioning units today, window units, PTACs, those type of things. And as more and more of the work is done to get it ready for prime time in some of the big split systems that we have here in the U.S., rooftops, a lot of more applications, including refrigeration, are going to start looking at A2Ls. A lot of work in development now. You should be seeing it out there, within the next 12, 18 months at the latest. I would say you'll start to see some of the first 2L uses out there. S in the push is for safety. And safety obviously is very important when we're talking about transitioning to flammable refrigerants, particularly in applications and with a workforce that didn't really work with flammable products in the past. So there's a couple philosophies around the safety, and there's a lot of work going on. I would say the 2 or 3 main thrusts of the whole safety initiative. One is around avoiding reaching a flammable concentration. So there's things known as the LFL, the UFL, upper flammability and lower flammability. All the safety work is designed to avoid ever getting to a concentration where you could have a flammable mixture in air in the event of a leak, in the event of anything else like that going on. The second part is around mitigation and mitigating ignition sources. So making sure nothing in the equipment that's going to be designed for 2Ls or in the immediate vicinity or the tools or machines that service technicians may use, none of those want to be able to generate an ignition source. So for the most part, tools are going to be fine, but there is some information around recovery units, maybe vacuum pumps, things that you're going to want to look for, make sure that they have a 2L rating. So the safety aspects, there's a lot of eyes on that, but we're all going to need to do our part to become aware of what is required and what we have to do. And finally, the handling part. That really is for the hands-on, our service technician workforce who are going to have to get used to these things and get trained on how we do the normal things we do today with non-flammable refrigerants, with flammable refrigerants in the future. Things like charging, servicing. If we're going to do hot work, we have brazing, making sure we do all the purging, the ventilation, circulating air. All those guidelines are being developed, and there's going to be a massive focus on training going on. There's a lot of companies and organizations out there heavily involved in training. Chemours is doing it. ESCO is doing it. There's a lot of places you can get it. So I encourage you at your earliest opportunity to start getting some training on 2L refrigerants so you're ready to go. Also in the safety and handling side, more on the safety, the codes and standards, all that work, that will determine the places, the spaces, what type of equipment could go in what type of areas, and a lot of work being going on to finish those up here in the coming months and years. A lot of the work is wrapping up, but there's still a little more to be done, and all that will eventually get loaded up into the building codes on their several year cycle to update all those, although some states are moving forward out of the normal update cycle to building codes. So depending where you're at, you may want to keep an eye out on for what's going on with the codes. So again, this isn't the in-depth training, just kind of awareness, the areas you want to be following and make sure you're up to speed on, the properties of flammable refrigerants, the uses, where you're going to be seeing them, safety, how that's built into the equipment, but also service practices, codes and standards, and finally the handling. How do you store it? How do you transport cylinders of flammable refrigerant? Is anything changed? What tools will we be using? All that is information you're going to want to have in your back pocket as we start rolling out mildly flammable refrigerants here in the near future. So a lot to be done, a lot to be said. I'll be sharing more information, going a little more detail. I will encourage you to go back and look at some of my previous episodes where I talked in a little more detail on some of these subjects, and we'll be doing more going forward. But as always, any questions on 2L refrigerants or anything refrigerant related, please give us a shout. We'll have the contact information in the comments below. And again, please hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, so you make sure you get all of our updates. And as always, I appreciate your feedback and appreciate you taking your time to check out these checkups. Be safe, and we'll be talking to you soon. So long.